Therefore, the one thing that ends up uniting it is the one person who grew up within the system and understands how to use it against them, right? So Plutarch becomes the one in charge of the narrative, which is also very dangerous because he was raised within the capital, which means even after the games, we have the danger of falling into the same system because it is the system the one that broke it. That's something to take into account, okay? Now, it being Plutarch the one who moves on and ends up putting the puzzle pieces in the Hunger Games to, or uniting the puzzle pieces to break out, and the contact with her teen and everything else. But the true essence of change comes from creativity. Education, arts, culture, mixed together with creativity are the things that are going to end up creating the elements that free people from a totalitarian state, okay? Which is why so many totalitarian leaders are so scared of creativity. Now they will use it. We see it with the game makers. They push the creativity and they do expand creativity being used in a certain way, but it is a controlled way. And you see it in the way the capital people dress and look and act, because you need to exploit that creativity before it becomes your weapon, the weapon that kills you. So they are exploiting it, they are using, but it's such a controlled environment because the narrative is so controlled. So the moment you bring in another narrative, the moment you break those limits, the moment you go further, and you see that to a certain extent, Plutarch has been studying what was before the dark days. He brings about information we did not have, information that had maybe been erased or destroyed or changed by Dr. Gall. And the Covey, with their source of information, becomes the very thing that ends the system, which is why it's so dangerous to Snow, which is why it is so important to pay attention to what the Covey does and who survives within the Covey, which I keep saying it survives through Katniss. Now, why am I saying this? Look at the songs that were made. Now, there are many references of poems being turned into songs. Lucy Gray, for example, right? Maud Ivory gives us a lot of it. This idea that they are taking information that existed, that pre-exists the system of Panem, and making it music. This is something that has happened throughout history. It is how humanity has passed on its story. Its history is when the written word was not sufficient. We sing, we talked, we eat. All of these things create our culture. All of these things require creativity. Okay? So the Covey is the end of the system. The Covey represents that exposure of creativity and movement. Even Lucy says that they love color. And while the capital uses a lot of color, as we see with Katniss, it is a very controlled use of creativity. It is a narrative that while you are allowing the people to be creative, they are being creative under a controlled system. So, for example, Tigris getting to the point of looking like a tiger in such a physical change of her body could be a rebellion in creativity. She could have done it to rebel against what little liberty she had. She used what little liberty she had to be creative and to rebel against the system. Now it could be. It also could have been a fashion thing. It also could have been something that we saw. We see it a little bit in the stylists with Katniss, the color of their skins, what they do with their eyes, what they do with their hair. We see it in how Effie dresses. Creativity is there, but it is a very controlled creativity. Okay? It doesn't go beyond the borders that are created by the system. So when you bring in someone that doesn't fit the system, someone that has been out of the system and brings in new information, and that information permeates throughout generations, they become dangerous. They become the thing that imbalances the very light balance, as Snow very well put it. Now, do I have my theories as to why Snow wasn't as aggressive with Katniss? Oh yeah, I do. I think it has a lot to do with the age his granddaughter was in. I think it has to do a lot with the age Katniss was in. And I think it has to do a lot with Prim and what Prim looks like. Now, here's the very interesting part of it all. if we go back to the idea of Covey being creativity. The Covey are doing what I understand by a video from TikTok, from a creator from the Appalachians, is Appalachian murder ballads. Now in Mexico, we have something very similar. We call them corridos. And it is this idea of telling a story of a death, of a movement, of a change in the system, of something you want to do different, of something that has happened that permeated society and changed the understanding of life. And not only that, I think that the books apply and would fit into this idea of the Appalachian murder ballads. And I'm sure that creator went on to say that. I didn't watch the video because, again, it talked about spoilers and I moved on. But I like the premise because it reminded me of corridos. So I hope that creator finds my video and I can apologize for not watching theirs completely. So they're the creativity. They are the source of change. They are the spark that Plutarch so much needed to change the world he grew up in. Again, a danger that it was also Plutarch who did the change. But it has to do a lot with him being able to access information. The privilege of information will always make change. So the more information you can access and be critical about, the better it is for you. But the more dangerous it is for the system to survive. So our mirrors, right? I talked about mirrors at the beginning. We have Lucy and Katniss who are a mirror of each other, not only physically, but I think in the idea that they portray a change to the status quo. We have Haymitch being a mirror to Katniss, Katniss being a mirror to Haymitch, Haymitch also being a mirror to Snow. I think Snow saw a little bit of himself because I truly believe Leonardo is Covey also. So Snow sees himself reflected both in Peeta and Haymitch. Okay, and he sees it as trying to protect the boy he was when he was heartbroken by not being able to control Lucy. Okay, and for example, I think that we see an image of Gale being a mirror to the lack of satisfaction, of going too far, of being too frustrated in a world that is trying to constantly keep you in a box. So these all are mirrors, are stories, are images that are trying to make you think critically of what is going to happen in your world if you are not interested in learning and interested in figuring out more things and interested in hearing more than one story. So what do I think we're going to find in Sunrise on the Reaping that isn't plot related? I think that the most important one is the danger of one story. And there is a YouTube, I saw years ago, a video of, I cannot remember her name, this author that talks about the danger of the one story. Please go find it. It is wonderful. And hear it and actually hear what she is saying because it still resonates with what we are living today. So that's one. We are going to see the importance of an organized rebellion and how important it is to create a structure of what you actually want and not just go against what you don't want. We're going to see the infiltration of District 13 and the effects it has, not by giving a new narrative, but by tweaking the narrative that already is. Because as we know, Coin is just another fascist leader. Okay? I think we are going to see just how bad Snow is at keeping the balance and how fragile it is to have someone that is not good at being creative in power. I think we're going to see just how delicate the system truly was, the formation of the game, and above all, how the games become a resource to the capital, in control for capital citizens. I think we're going to see how power corrupts and how people are corrupted when given a little bit of power. And above all, the danger that the Covey represents as the creative source and the change in information. I guess I'll have to read the book and figure out if I'm right. Thank you for listening.